I'm Joel Baird, the General Manager of Missoula Community Access Television. I'd like to invite you to another edition of What's Up Missoula. This series profiles service organizations, civic groups, and nonprofits in Missoula that are making a difference every day in the lives of people that live in the Valley. Today we're going to visit with Steve Woodward. He's the HIV Prevention Coordinator for the Missoula AIDS Council. Steve, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
It wasn't easy to get you. I think this was like try number 3, so I'm glad that you did. Because you are really busy, right?
Yeah, it's been very busy so far this year, very busy.
Yeah, and people may not know, so I mean, of course that's the most obvious question. What is your organization? You know, what is the Missoula AIDS Council? And I'm even going to ask you how it got its name, because I wonder, and I don't know if you know. Missoula AIDS Council, why is it a council?
And Missoula AIDS Council, I don't know how they came up with the name. I know that it was originally formed in an effort to create awareness and provide services for people who were already infected with HIV, and also to function as a source of education and information for those who were not infected. And so that's the reason for the existence of Missoula AIDS Council, as a source for the community for information and education and services connected with HIV.
Right. And do you know when it started? I should guess or I should be aware or what have you, but I'm thinking mid-'80s, but I don't know.
And it did start in the mid-'80s, and it actually existed for a couple of years before it was incorporated in 1989. But it has been in existence shortly before that, and we've been providing services to the community since that time.
Right. And how many people are there? You mentioned there's the Executive Director, Nancy Mulla. There's you, obviously, the HIV Prevention Coordinator.
Correct. And we also have a project coordinator for a statewide program called MTAP, which is Montana Targeted Prevention. It's an outreach program, and we have a project coordinator for that, Jennifer Hackenbrook, and the administrative assistant for that program, Jerry Howard. And we also have a housing coordinator for a housing program that we have for services for people with HIV. And I won't mention her name just for confidentiality reasons.
Okay. Well, there's a lot. Oh, that was your next question, how long it had been in existence. Is that something? But it's okay, that's a number of things you've already enumerated as services. And there's probably more. But one important point is prevention, and that's one of your main jobs, right? Is to do education, and what's involved with that? What stuff do you do?
As the prevention coordinator, I get a lot of opportunities to go into high schools, into other community organizations, as well as the university, to talk about HIV and AIDS, to create awareness and provide education on what it is and that it does exist here in western Montana. I myself, being HIV positive, makes it a little bit of a different presentation because I can talk from first-person experience. And I think it's vitally important that people understand that it isn't something that is so awful that the people who already are infected should be discriminated against. And fear is the worst thing that we can have toward HIV, because it's not a good indicator in allowing us to make good decisions, and it's also the leading cause of discrimination and stigma. And so my goal as the prevention coordinator is to educate people about what HIV is and how to protect themselves from it, so that it reduces the fear and reduces the stigma and discrimination attached to those already infected.
And do you work within a series of high schools or series of, I guess I'm asking, do people request the speaker, like a speaker or presentation service that you have? Can they call the number and say, gee, I would like someone to come to my class, you know, I've got a bunch of 7th graders here, or do you go outside of the school system? Are there clubs or groups or other things like that?
Yeah, we actually have a group within Missoula AIDS Council, a program called the Speakers Bureau, where it is HIV positive people who are willing to go into the community and speak about their experience in living with HIV in an effort to create education and awareness. And anybody can call the Missoula AIDS Council number and request information about a speaker, give us the time and the day, and either myself or one of the other speakers on the panel will arrange to be there and do the presentation for them.
Right. And have you gone a lot of places in Missoula or around?
I've actually been in every high school in Missoula, with the exception of one, And I've been to the university multiple times. I've been to Polson and Plains, and I do a lot of organizations here in Missoula that are not school related as well. So we did well over 80 presentations last year creating awareness about HIV and AIDS.
That is something. And then I want to make sure that we've got the number up too at some point so that if people watching the program are interested, oh good, there it is. If you're interested in having a presentation, give a call. And I'm going to say the number for people. It's 543-4770. And we rehearsed this before we started taping, the location of the Missoula AIDS Council, because the AIDS Council offers HIV testing there.
Yes, we do.
At the office, which is 127 North Higgins, right?
Correct.
And it's on the second floor. There is an elevator there in that building?
There's an elevator as you go in the front doors. There's an elevator on your left or the stairway on your right.
That's right. And you want to make sure people know where the building is, because I was telling Steve that I felt, people, especially if they feel like there's something with stigma attached, or they're really worried about it. They really want to know everything about the place where they're going to go. So you can vouch that everyone's friendly.
Everyone is friendly.
Generally, right?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Yes, they are.
And that the building is just to the north. It's closer to Broadway than the Florence Hotel building where the Catalyst is. So people remember there's the Catalyst, then there's the alleyway, then there's what some people might call the old J.C. Penney building, because that's what it is, and that it's on the second floor.
Correct.
You can take the elevator, you can take the stairs. Is there a suite number?
Yes, it's Suite 207.
207.
And an easy way to find the building is just remember that the Hallmark store is in the bottom floor.
Right.
And so that's the advertisements that you see on the windows there by the sidewalk.
Oh, good. See, well, and then when could people go? I'm sure they can call the 543-4770.
Correct.
But the testing is not every day.
We do test every day that we are there. We encourage people to call ahead of time because we're often out in the community doing other educational activities, and we don't like people to make a trip down there for nothing. So we encourage them to call the number ahead of time and set up a time, but we do accept walk-ins any day of the week.
And this is during like what people think of as the conventional business hours, which are rapidly fading in our 24/7 Walmart world. But Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, 9 to 5.
Yeah, typically Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. If those times don't work for you and you really want to be tested, go ahead and call us, and myself or one of the other certified testers and counselors will be willing to set up a time either later in the evening, earlier in the morning, or on the weekend that will work for you.
Oh yeah, and even the weekend.
Yeah, we're willing to come in on the weekend.
So this is different. I know the health department offers testing as well.
They do.
I mean, do you feel it's qualitative? I don't want to put you in the spot. I mean, the sense that, is it different in any sense, or you recommend either? But I mean, this sounds like a personal commitment to getting people in there and tested. Like,
and
you're really
is.
willing to go the extra
and I know the person at the health department that's doing the counseling and testing there, and she's wonderful. She does a great job there. So I certainly don't necessarily recommend one place over the other. I do know that her hours of availability are a lot more limited than what our hours of testing are, but certainly just as qualified.
And then the cost, that seems important. Now, people are, or maybe, you could just speak to the importance of people getting tested. How about that? Let's see what the motivation factor might be there in TV land.
Okay.
Let's say people are watching the show and they're like, oh, yeah, that's interesting to know. It has nothing to do with me. Or, I have no reason to feel like I would be in an at-risk situation or something, so I'm going to blow it off. I'm not going to think about it and change the channel. So what would you have to say to that?
What I would say to that is that you need to know what the risk factors are, what behaviors put you at risk, and then do an honest assessment of your activities to determine if you have been at risk. And before you too quickly dismiss whether or not you're at risk, it's important to remember there are about 900,000, approximately 900,000 people in the United States living with HIV or AIDS. And it's estimated that 1 out of every 3 are unaware of their HIV status. So that means that there's about 300,000 people in the United States who are HIV positive and do not even know it.
Yeah.
And I think it's incredibly important to find out what your serostatus is. If you're HIV negative, for the peace of mind of knowing that your health is still intact and that you are not infected. And if you end up testing positive for HIV, it's important to get diagnosed early. Early detection and early treatment is vital to long-term survival for people with HIV.
That's a good reason.
And as far as the price goes, at Missoula AIDS Council, as well as at the City County Health Department, the testing is both free and anonymous. We charge nothing for our test. If you are at risk and are concerned and would like to know what your status is, all you have to do is come into our office. We do not collect any personal identifying information such as your name,
Right.
and it will cost you nothing except a few minutes of your time.
That's pretty good, it being
Yeah.
free. And what has it been like? Are there a lot of people in Missoula, for instance, getting the test done there at the AIDS Council? Are you guys really busy, I guess?
We are actually busy, and the numbers are going up all the time. We are increasing our testing activity. In August of last year, we were one of 6 sites in Montana that started a pilot project for rapid testing, where it requires a finger prick. We collect a drop of blood, and within 20 minutes of starting the testing procedure, we can give you the results of that test before you ever leave, which is a huge benefit over the testing in the past, where you come in for the counseling and they either draw blood or take a swab of your mouth, and then a week or 2 later you're expected to come back to receive your results.
Right, so people are spending a very long period. If they've come in worry, they're going to leave worried and spend that whole period of
Exactly.
time very worried.
And because we work on an anonymous level, if somebody should test positive but choose not to come back to get their results, we have no way of knowing who they are or how to notify them that the results have come back positive for future testing and treatment. So it's important to be tested, and with the new rapid test that we are now doing, we still offer the oral test for those who do not want to have a finger poke or have any other reason why they would not want to do the rapid test. We still offer the oral test as well, but it's very important for them to come in and be tested. They can get their results immediately and know what their status is up to the window period.
Wow. Oh, and talk about that, because I think we only talked about it before we started today.
Yeah.
The window period, or what I call the blind spot, where the test is conclusive but not up to the minute.
Correct. The window period with HIV can be up to 3 months, because it can take, when we test for HIV, we do not test for the virus itself. We are actually testing for the presence of the HIV antibody in the blood or in the body. And so it can take up to 3 months for the antibodies to be produced in large enough quantities to be detectable on the test. So what I tell people when they are tested is that whatever the date is on the day of the test, that test will be accurate in its reading up to 3 months from that date, 3 months ago from that date. So it's important to remember and to do an honest assessment of your activities, to know what your risks are and when the last time you were possibly put at risk or potentially exposed to HIV, to determine whether or not the reading you're getting on your HIV test is going to be accurate or not.
Right. And we talked a little too before we started taping about the potential consumer tests where people are doing this testing absolutely by themselves. And I kind of thought you'd take a dim view of that. I think a number of people would, because the people's reaction to having a positive return on their test, might be such it's not the greatest thing for them to be by themselves, or let's say there's someone, who's a young adult or a teen surreptitiously doing this even, and then being faced with that kind of information with no support at all.
Agreed.
Or even a shroud of secrecy around what they're doing.
Agreed. And as a person who has received a positive result, that's one of the reasons why I am somewhat hesitant to encourage people to do home testing, because if the result is positive, I think it's vitally important that they're not by themselves, and that they're not only are they not by themselves, but they're actually have contact with resources and individuals who are trained to deal with that type of a situation. And even in our testing, for the oral test, it takes 2 weeks for the results to come back, and we don't take their name, so they're assigned a number. And they can call in to see if the results have returned from the lab. And by giving us that number, we can let them know. However, we cannot give them results over the phone. They actually have to come back into the office in person in order to receive those results, for the same type of reason that I'm hesitant to encourage the home testing, because if they're getting the results over the phone, are they driving down the road, or are they sitting in their home all by themselves with no support, nobody to turn to, nobody to talk to? It can be a very traumatic experience to receive a positive reading, and if that is the result, it's important to have people there who know how to work with you and help you work through those initial emotions.
Oh, sure. And there's also, I'm sure, a lot of referral stuff that the AIDS Council can do.
We do a tremendous amount of referral work to other agencies within this area, as well as areas across the state, and into other states if need be. Occasionally people who are traveling through will stop and be tested as they're traveling through, and we are more than willing to do the research necessary to provide referral services to them for their location. It's very important in order for HIV prevention work as well as treatment to be effective that the different organizations that are working in that field work closely together as a team for one common goal.
Well, and for instance, you mentioned that the AIDS Council has a housing program. What is that all about?
The AIDS Council does have a housing program. It's been in existence for about 2 years now, and it's actually a federally funded program to provide rental assistance for people living with HIV and AIDS who would perhaps otherwise be at risk of being homeless. And we're very proud of the program, and we have clients enrolled on the program. We are very careful how we talk about it in a public setting, simply because we respect the confidentiality of the clients who may not want their association with the program to automatically disclose their HIV status.
Sure. I got you there. What else? Is there anything, that we didn't cover on your list of questions?
No, I don't think that there really is. I think it's important for people to remember that HIV and AIDS are still very real and still very much a problem worldwide, nationwide, and right here in Missoula. There are people, not just myself, there are other people in Missoula that are living the day-to-day experience of being HIV positive, and that it is out there, and that if we don't educate ourselves and protect ourselves, then we can put ourselves at risk. We're not somehow immune to the disease simply because we live in a rural state or because we fall into certain categories of the population. Anybody who engages in risky behaviors are putting themselves at risk of HIV. It's very, very real. The great medications that have been out for the last 8 years have changed the face of HIV, but they certainly have not stopped the fact that it is still the disease that leads to AIDS, which can be deadly. And there is still no cure. Prevention is the best method for their choice of activity, because preventing the disease is far less complicated than treating it.
Right. Well, Steve, thanks so much for coming by. I want to make sure that people out there have the contact stuff again. And again, if people would like to contact the Missoula AIDS Council and get someone from the Speakers Bureau to do a presentation, that's one of the main reasons the AIDS Council is there, is a good service that they provide, and that you would be
Correct.
part of that. Or there's someone else that you work with too, right? So
Correct.
the number's 543-4770, and also that the AIDS Council is going to be having a fundraiser. So I know, before we started, so I'm not going to talk about that because I'm not sure what it is, but if people are interested in contributing to that effort, I'd encourage them to just call.
Yeah,
Find out.
We are having the fundraiser. It is slated for March 13th. For those that would like more information about that, please feel free to call us at 543-4770.
All right. Well, thanks again, Steve, for coming
You're welcome.
by.
Thank you.
Sure. And I'd like to thank everyone for watching this edition of What's Up Missoula. We've been visiting with Steve Woodward. He's the HIV Prevention Coordinator for the Missoula AIDS Council. And if you know of an organization you'd like to have on this program, give us a call at MCAT. The number is 542-6228. For MCAT, I'm Joel Baird. Thanks for watching.